Hey guys, just want to do a video here to show you guys the step-by-step again, how to do this, some sort of image slider with jQuery and the jQuery cycle plugin. And we'll cover sort of the layout of this specific one here, and I'll also go get into a little bit on how to use jQuery and the cycle plugin specifically. Same kind of process for a lot of different plugins, but we're going to use the cycle plugin today and show you guys how to build this. So I have this sort of layout in Photoshop. I started off with this, and essentially what you want to do is, I'll just talk quickly about the layout of how this is going to work exactly in terms of layout. Um, so this green box here is going to be our page div. That's going to be our outer container. And then inside that, we're going to just put this container is just going to be because we have three. We're going to have three floated columns in the middle, and we want to be able to maybe put stuff underneath that. So we put this container on the outside of it to clear all the floats. And then inside that, we have our three other boxes. The one on the left for our left button and the one on the right for our right button. And then in the middle, this is just going to be our container for our images that we put in there. We're going to put all our images that we export. And by the way, I have all these slides sort of pre-built. So let's see here. If I turn off all these lines again. Okay, so there's my pink slide, my blue slide, and then I got the brown one there. And the way you would do this is you would basically, a lot of people like to use the slice tool, kind of like this. Essentially, just like this, where I slice out the whole image for the each of the slider images, and then what I would do is toggle off that layer and change it over to this layer and slice in the same spot again. That's a good way to do it because you know you're getting the same dimensions and everything's in the right spot. Anyway, and then as you can see, I just want to have the slice for my two arrows on the side as well. And so I've already gone ahead and sliced out all those images using Save for Web in Photoshop. And you can see I have a folder for them right here. And that's all my images. Okay. And the arrows as well, I got those. So what I'll do is I'm going to create a folder here just for this web page, just um, so that everything's in one spot here. And I'll call this slider. And what I'll do is I'll just drag all my images in there. And what I'll do is I got Dreamweaver open, and I'll create a new HTML file. Okay, and I'll save this immediately. I'll just save it in that folder. Okay, I'll save it as index. Okay. And I'll just create some quick basic styles for the web page. Okay, so I just want to sample this background color and create a style for my body in Dreamweaver. Okay, so body style, and I'll give that the background color I just sampled in Photoshop. Okay, good. And this next one, so the next one I want to create is I'll make that outer div that we talked about. Basically our page div. I always call it page. Okay, so that will have the ID page. Just say OK here, and I'll create a style for that as well. Okay, style for our page div, and I'll just give this background color white, and I want to go to box, and I'll make the width 960 pixels and say apply. And I'll also change margin to auto. Okay, so that's centered it. And then the next thing I want to do is I'll put another inside container. Um, this is going to contain the the three the three sort of columns that we're going to create essentially. And as I said, the reason we do this is so that we can maybe we would want to put text underneath. I would be using the slider as the header of my page, and I would maybe want to put text and other things underneath it, uh, more than likely. So that's why I put a container around it, and then I'll be able to put all that stuff underneath it. So just before all this text, maybe what I'll do is I'll insert a new div tag, and I'll call this top container. Say OK. And I want to create a style for this top container. So create a new style, and I'll just make it for top container there. And what I'll do for this one is I'll go down to positioning and change overflow to auto, and just say OK. And that's enough for that one right now. So inside this, I'm going to create 3 additional divs. We'll go ahead and do that right now. Insert a div tag, and I'm gonna the two outside arrows are going to be our controller buttons for controlling the slider. So they're going to both have sort of common styles. They're going to be the same dimensions and stuff. So I'm going to use a class to style them the same, and I'll just call it controller. Okay, basically just for styling purposes. Okay, so this has the class controller. All right, now's a good time to have a look at this code here and see exactly what we're creating. And in fact, I inserted that at the wrong point. You remember I was saying that we want our controllers and our other slider div, the container for all our images, all our slide images. We want that to be inside our top container. So I'm just gonna move that div inside of top container. Okay, just hit enter here so I can see what we're doing. And also, I have this sort of, so top container opens here and it closes right down here. So what I want to do is maybe just delete this text right here because I don't actually need that text. And I want to create an additional controller on the other side. So I'll just go a couple lines down and copy the first line and paste it again. So now I have one for the left and one for the right. And then I also want one in another div in the middle. So I'll just copy that and paste it again. But I don't want this to have the class controller. Instead, what I want is this one to have the ID equals slider. Okay, so we just inserted, this is just another way of inserting another div in between those two. We sort of just sandwiched it with that with the two controller divs. And if we have a look over in our design view now, if I click back over here and what happened, okay, so we have our three divs, and it still says that content for class controller goes here, but that's just because we copied and pasted that. If we go back here and look, it's still our slider div. It just has that text inside of it, and we're going to change that anyway. So, anyways, what we can do now is I'll just click inside one of our actual controller divs, and I want to create styles for that class. So I'll say new CSS rule, and we just want to create it for this dot controller. If I click less specific, that was just being very specific. in saying that it's a controller inside top container inside our page. We don't actually need to be that specific. So I'll just click less specific a couple times. Say OK. And we'll go to background and change our background image. We want to use that arrow image. So we'll use the previous image on this one, and we'll just say OK. And if we hit apply, we'll see it's applied to both of our controller, or both of the divs that have the class controller, because we've just created styles for that controller class. So what we'll do, we need to sort of make a few more changes to this style here. One is that we don't want the background to repeat, so we'll say background repeat, no repeat. And we also want the Y position to be center so that it's centered vertically. The image is centered vertically based on however high we make this div, and we'll go in and change the dimensions in a second here. So we want the width to be whatever the width of our image is, which is 52. Okay, yours might be different, but in this case my image was 52 pixels wide, so I'll say OK. And then I also want the height of that div to be 320 because that's how high our slider images are going to be. So say OK now. Those are basically the two. Say OK here. And now let's go ahead and we'll start making the styles for this slider div. So I'll click inside it and I'll say new CSS rule. And again, I'll just be less specific. I just want to create a rule for our slider div, any slider div, and say OK. And we want the width and height of this to be whatever the width and height of all our images is going to be. So I'll go to box and I'll make the width of it 697 because that's the width that my images were cut out at. Okay, you'll have to find that out based on your own images. And the height of it 320 because that's how high the images are. So I'll say apply and I'll say OK. Now you'll notice that these are all right now just stacked on top of each other, and that's because that's what divs do. They just create a new division in the page and basically force a line break on the top and bottom, right? So what we need to do is we'll float each and every one of these elements. Now we can float both of our controller divs by just changing that style for our controller class. So over here in my CSS panel, I'll just go back and into my controller style, and I'll go down to box and float it to the left, and I'll say apply. Okay, but you can see that that's doing some weird stuff, like this is our slider is just sort of kind of wrapping around it a little bit. The text inside slider is wrapping around that that first div, and that's because we still haven't floated it. So what I'll do is I'll go into our slider and I'll go down to box and float it to the left as well. Now you can see now that these are all side by side. Now what I would want to do obviously is I'll take the text out now that these have some dimension. I don't have to worry about this text anymore. So I'll take this all out. And basically now we have our sort of framework for what we can use for this slider. What I need to do here is actually just put all my images inside this slider div, and then we'll go back and with jQuery and the plugin and just tell the plugin that this is the div that we want to be our slider. So what I'll do is I'll insert each of those images into my slider div. And Dreamweaver is being kind of annoying here. It's not letting me put it directly in this div, even if I drag right into it. So sometimes what you need to do is I just can look over here and I'll see that this div is, or this image is outside of my slider div. We have slider open here and it closes immediately, and for some reason Dreamweaver is not letting me put anything inside of it in design view. So what I'll do is I'll just highlight that image tag and put it inside that div, and and now you can see that it's in there. So I'll just go ahead and insert the other two here. Alright, so you'll see them, you should see them stacking up like this inside whatever div you created. And if you don't want to see them stacking like that, what you can actually do is you can go back maybe into your the slider div, which is the container for those three images, and you can go down to positioning and change overflow to hidden, and this way you'll only see that first slide. It will cut everything else off, and that'll be just fine. So I'll say OK there. And so this is basically set up, and all we need to do now is get our scripts and put them into our page. So where do you get them? Well, easiest way is with jQuery. We'll open up our web browser and go to jQuery.com, and I can just click on this download jQuery. And what I'll do is I'll say Command S to save this, and I'll just save this script in the same folder as whatever page I'm working on. So this is saving the jQuery script, and then the next thing I need to do is I'll go to Google, and what I want to search for is jQuery cycle. Okay, so it's the first result, and this plugin has a bunch of different effects you can change once you set it up, and it's pretty simple. What I want to do though is up in the top left there's this download the cycle plugin. I'll just click that, and it's just the first one here, the full plugin. So I'll click that, and I'll do the same thing, Command S, and I'll save the cycle plugin as well. So now I have the plugin and the script, and I'm going to go back into Dreamweaver and put these on my page. Where do you put them? Well, best place to put these is in the head of your document, just below the title, and you can see that the title is right here, so we'll just put them right here. Click the line below it, and I'll go over to script and just click the script button, and browse to my jQuery, first the jQuery script, which is this jQuery 1.7.1.min.js. Say OK. Okay, so there's my script tag that I put in. And right below that, I want to put my plugin. So I'll do another script and browse for the cycle script, the cycle plugin script now, which is this one. Say OK. Okay, so there's my two script tags, and then just below that we need to add another tag that will sort of initialize the cycle plugin on this slider div, so that it knows which div in the page we're using as our slider. We could actually set up 2 or 3 of these if we wanted to, or even more. But for now we're just going to do the one, but we need to tell it which div to use. So what we can do is we'll go back to the cycle plugin website, and we can go down underneath his demos. He has this see more demos and examples. So what I'll do here is just open up the super basic demo, and I want to view the source of this. And in most web browsers, you can just go Command U or edit view source. So I'll do that, and I'm just looking at the source of his web page now. And you can see that he's sort of done the same thing. He included the jQuery library here. Then he included the cycle plugin. And then below that, he initializes the script. He initializes the plugin on, in this case, he uses .slideshow here. And that just means that it's whatever element on the page has the class slideshow. And you can see that down here he has this div with the class slideshow, and inside of it he has various image tags that it slides right through, which is basically how we've set ours up, except we've used a different div name. We've given it the ID slider, so that's one thing we're going to have to change. But what we can do is we'll copy his script tag that he uses, this the open tag of the script all the way down to the close tag of the script. I'll copy that, and I'll go back into Dreamweaver, and just underneath it here I'll paste that same block of text right there. Okay, so there it is. And the next thing we need to do is tell it specifically which div we want to use on our page. Well, if we go back and look at ours, our div is the ID slider that has all our images in it. So let's go back up here to where we initialize the script, and instead of using the class slideshow, we'll say pound slider, because it's the ID slider, so it's the same as a CSS selector. And we'll just go ahead and leave it at that for now. And what I'll do is I'll preview this in Firefox. And if we did this right, it should slide through the different slides. And there you go. So there's some more stuff we can do here though. And one of those things that we're going to want to do probably is use these controller boxes as our left and right buttons. And so we need to go ahead and set that up. And the way we can do that is we'll go back to his website and we'll look at some of his other examples. On intermediate demos part 2, if we click on that, he has a previous and next example. And on each of these examples, he gives you a little piece of code to use in order to configure it the way that he has it set up. So if we look at this, what we want out of this, basically we could copy this whole block here, but it's basically the same as the one we have set up. The thing we need to add into this is this next colon, and then another CSS selector for our next button, and then a previous for our previous button. So I can just copy these two right here. And if you're not comfortable just copying a little bit of it, just copy the whole thing and change what you need to afterwards. And I'll go back into Dreamweaver up to my script, and I'll just paste this in the same spot where all the little configurations go. Now you want to make sure if you're doing this that you get the same sort of syntax that that he's using in all the examples. You can see here that I get this red highlight on line 13, and that's because if you notice that in between each of these there needs to be a comma in between each of our options. So make sure you're getting that correctly. The only one that doesn't need a comma will be your last option, because there's nothing that comes after it. So we need to also change this the CSS the CSS selector to whatever ID we're using. Now we haven't actually given each of our controllers any ID yet, because you'll remember that we just styled these using classes. So what I'll do is I'll go down and I'll click on each of our controllers, and down here in properties I'll give this one the ID previous, and this one the ID next. Okay, and basically all that does over here in code is it adds the attribute next onto that div. So we'll go back up and we'll just change these to sort of match that. And the one other thing we might want to do with this, we still have this arrow pointing to the left. Now that this has a specific ID, this controller right here, we can actually style this one specifically. So what we'll do is I'll create a new CSS rule for our next ID, and I'll change the background image to the next image, which is the other one, and I'll hit apply. Okay, so it sort of reset all those other styles, or some of the other styles related to the background image. So I'll just go ahead and change that again to no repeat, and then center that. Say OK. Alright, so now we have them pointing in the right direction. And I'll save this one more time and open this back up in Firefox. And so now we have this, and we can slide through these. Now you can look on his website and go through all of his examples, and there's tons of different effects that you can go through. Like if you go to the browse effects here, you can see all the different effects you can change this to. Like the one you might want to use for like a slider is scroll horizontal. If I copied that and used it in the effects as our effects option, so I'll save that, and we can go back to my example, and now you can see that it scrolls horizontally nicely in between each of those slides. And obviously, if you were really doing this on a web page, you would probably want to style this top container a little nicer, so that the box has more padding away from the edges. So I'll change this to maybe like 45, and also maybe pad these two arrows so that they're not touching the slider. We go back into our controller, we'll add margin to those. And there you go. That's spaced out a little bit nicer now. So that's about it. And as I said, there's tons of different effects you can go with just with this one plugin alone, and you could create all sorts of different cool things with that.